Like the saying goes, it takes one to know one. The same is true with writing. Thinking of yourself as a writer will help you teach writing, even if your writing is your journal or funny personal stories or your family history. Have your students study the techniques and craft of writers. See themselves as writers, studying what other writers do. Compare and contrast their own writing to other authors. Read and listen for a writer's craft. Read autobiographical works of writers. Learn the process of language by having their speech recorded as writing for them to read. What makes your favorite writers speak to you? Capture your interest, spark your imagination. Stop this video and go to the Literature Models Writing video page on Blackboard. Spend a few minutes looking at the images in the Mysteries of Harris Burdick PowerPoint. The Mysteries of Harris Burdick is by Chris Van Allsburg, who also gave us the Polar Express. Chris tells us the behind-the-scenes story. I first saw the drawings in this book a year ago in the home of a man named Peter Winders. Though Mr. Winders is retired now, he once worked for a children's book publisher, choosing the stories and pictures that would be turned into books. 30 years ago, a man called at Peter Winders' office, introducing himself as Harris Burdick. Mr. Burdick explained that he had written 14 stories and had drawn many pictures for each one. He'd brought with him just one drawing from each story to see if Mr. Winders liked his work. Peter Winders was fascinated by the drawings. He told Burdick he would like to read the stories that went with them as soon as possible. The artist agreed to bring the stories the next morning. He left the 14 drawings with Winders, but he did not return the next day, or the day after that. Harris Burdick was never heard from again. Over the years, Winders tried to find out who Burdick was and what had happened to him, but he discovered nothing. To this day, Harris Burdick remains a complete mystery. His disappearance is not the only mystery left behind. What were the stories that went with those drawings? There are some clues. Burdick had written a title and caption for each picture. We're going to reverse the process most writers follow. Most writers write the story and then someone illustrates it. Using a backward design model with the Harris Burdick form that you'll find on the Literature Models Writing video page, select an image that interests you and write your version of the story. To show your students how famous authors handled this assignment, let them read the Chronicles of Harris Burdick, 14 Amazing Authors Tell the Tales. Lemony Snicket writes the introduction. Other authors include Linda Sue Park, Lois Lowry, Stephen King, Kate DiCamillo, Walter Dean Myers, M.T. Anderson, and others. Read the book aloud, savor, and enjoy it. And then, only then, should you look at the wonderful devices you have found in that book that you love. Picture books can be great examples of effective writing. The authors have to use fewer words to tell the story. There are many picture books that tell stories about figures of speech and grammar rules. If you were a student, would you rather do a worksheet or read a story about homophones, similes, punctuation, and spelling? Students can learn about what makes good writing by giving books they read a literary report card. They could use the outline of literary elements as areas to evaluate the book. The grading scale could be G for good, S for satisfactory, and N for needs to improve. There could also be an area for the reader to make comments or suggestions. On the Literary Models Writing video page, there's a link to design a dialogue jacket for a book, another activity students might enjoy. A book could invite you to write a sequel, continue the ending, update the format with contemporary language and idioms, make multi-platform stories with games and puzzles added. You could have the book send an invitation to the class to read it. What if you took a book and changed the protagonist? How will that change the story? And if you give a mouse a cookie, you know what happens. But if you give the Mustang what could it be? How would that affect the story? Use the classified ad technique to pick out the key parts of a story and sell them to other readers. good a texter are you? Well, I don't think I've had anybody in my classes ever really figured these out, but it's kind of a neat way for students to take just a few words to tell the story. The first one is Big Bad Wolf, Look Out Red Riding Hood. The next one, Big Bad Wolf blows down house. Girl breaks into house, caught sleeping on job. Beauty weds prince with shoe fetish. Princess sleeps on pea but back hurts in the morning. Homely fowl becomes beautiful swan. Nightmare at the Book Fair by Dan Gutman. All he wants to do is play lacrosse. So when the president of the PTA asks Tip to help her out on his way to tryouts, he is not happy. He is even more not happy when a stack of books tumbles onto his head and knocks him out cold. And he is even more not happy when he wakes up and has absolutely no idea where he is. Now all he wants to do is get home, but after encountering a haunted house, aliens, talking animals, and much, much more, he realizes getting home might be just a little bit harder to do than he thought. As a chapter in Tip's nightmare ends, another chapter begins, and each one is a different genre: horror, sports, fiction, easy reader, animal fiction, etc., 10 in all. Your students can also experience the same nightmare. Give them the first line of different books. Below that first line lists several different genres. Each student writes a line that goes with the next genre listed, but also continues the story. Going Someplace Special by Patricia McKissick is about her life in Nashville, and the special place that she likes to go is to the Nashville Public Library. In the Mark Twain quote, in today's world you could put like or whatever for very or damn and have that same principle apply. A writer is nothing without a reader. A reader is nothing without a writer.